Hey guys, what's going on? James here, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about why Carlton Davis is going to be a star for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for this upcoming 2020 season. Now, if you guys remember from last offseason, I made 3 videos talking about some of the players who I thought were going to be stars for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the 2019 season. Now, those 3 players were Shaq Barrett, that one went pretty darn well, Chris Godwin, that one went pretty well as well, and Noah Spence, which that one didn't go as well, but I still love Noah Spence. But I decided to bring this back in a little bit of a different format. Now, in the previous incarnation of these videos, they were super edited with a ton of footage and photos of these guys through their high school, college, and eventually NFL careers, which was fun. I had a lot of fun making those videos in that aspects, but it's just becoming a little bit too difficult to dig up high school stats and college photos and high school photos of some of these players. So for the purposes of this new wave of videos that I'm going to be making, talking about some of the players who I think are going to be stars for the Buccaneers this upcoming season, I've gone ahead and decided to change the format to just having this. Now, I will have photos and videos right up here in the top right of the video, so if you guys want to check those out while we're talking, we can go ahead and do that. But in terms of having it be super edited with a blurred up background of a football field and all of the editing that was done with that, not going to really be able to do that right now, but yeah, let's get started talking about Carlton Davis and why he's going to be a star for the Buccaneers in 2020. Now, first thing I want to mention when talking about Carlton Davis and why I feel he's going to be a star for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I want to go all the way back to his high school days. Now, he went to high school in Miami Gardens, Florida. He went to Norland High, which, by the way, same high school where plenty of very, very good NFL players went to. I believe Xavier Rhodes and Antonio Brown went there, just as 2 very recent examples. But, hey, born and raised in Florida on the West Coast. He didn't have to travel that far to get back to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And coming out of high school, Carlton Davis was a very, very good cornerback. He already had the size and the physicality that we know him for today. He was a 4-star recruit coming out of high school. He was so good that he had 20 offers from colleges, including Alabama, Miami, Auburn, Ohio State, among many other of these highly touted schools. Now, originally, Carlton Davis had decided that he was going to go to Ohio State University. That was set in his mind. He was going to go to Ohio State and be a productive player for that very, very good college and that very, very good defense. However, at the last moment, he decided to decommit from Ohio State, stay a little bit closer to home, and that's how he ended up at Auburn. Now, much like I was talking about at the beginning of this video, in terms of looking up overall stats for Carlton Davis, I flat out can't find any high school stats. I looked absolutely everywhere. So for this part of the video talking about his high school career and things along those lines, we're just going to have to omit stats right now because there aren't a lot of stats to talk about. So the point is, he was already a very, very physical and good cornerback coming out of high school. He could have went to Ohio State if he wanted to, but he decided to stay a little bit closer to home and go to Auburn University. Moving on to his time in Auburn, and guys, I want to be honest, this is where I personally feel Carlton Davis came into his own as a player and as a cornerback. Now, he already had the size, but I feel at Auburn is where he really learned that physicality and the type of cornerback he wanted to be, not just for his college career, but also for his potential NFL career as well. Now, I do want to say this. The interceptions have not always been there for Carlton Davis, not just in the NFL, but also during his college time as well. He played 3 years at Auburn University, 2015, 2016, and in 2017, and he only had 4 interceptions in those 3 years, which is unfortunate to a certain degree. But one thing I will say is that because of his physicality and because of his overall play being a very physical cornerback, the pass breakups were always there for Carlton Davis. Now, because of his physical play style that he had learned and basically adopted while playing at Auburn, he was able to have at least 10 pass breakups every single season throughout his entire college career at Auburn University. And for those of you keeping track of stats at home, that's pretty darn good. Coming into the NFL draft, scouts did have some concerns with Carlton Davis's overall flexibility, his overall agility, and his overall speed as well. I believe he ran a 4.57 40-yard dash. However, some of the more positive things coming into the NFL draft for Carlton Davis, the big thing being first off that he was NFL ready, playing in the SEC. That's a phenomenal conference to play college football in, and they really do help you get ready for the next level of play. From college to the NFL, the SEC is one of the better places for players to get ready for that next level. Another couple of points that need to be made in terms of Carlton Davis coming into the NFL draft. He had great size, he had great length, and then finally, of course, he had great physicality as well. In fact, one NFL scout went as far as to say that he would not have been surprised if Carlton Davis ended up being a Pro Bowl cornerback, much like Nnamdi Asomugha. And by the way, for the people keeping track at home for who Nnamdi Asomugha is, some people might have forgotten, he ended his career after many years, and he ended it as a 3-time Pro Bowler and a 2-time All-Pro. Not a bad resume and not a bad player to be compared to at all for Carlton Davis. Now, a lot of people had Carlton Davis pegged as a second-round draft pick coming in to the NFL draft, and be honest, hey, they hit the nail right on the head on that one, because in the end, Carlton Davis would be selected with the 63rd overall pick in the 2018 NFL draft, along with another cornerback later in the draft, that being MJ Stewart. The Buccaneers at this time were trying to infuse a little bit more of youth into their cornerback room. A couple of years ago, they still had Brent Grimes under contract. They still had Vernon Hargreaves as well, but you could make a legitimate argument that after those two guys, the Buccaneers cornerback room was looking pretty thin. So general manager Jason Licht decided, well, hey, I'm just going to take 2 cornerbacks in the second round and let's see how that works. And if I'm being honest, I think it worked out pretty good. Talking about his first year with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Carlton Davis actually played the 5th most defensive stats on the entire team. Now, the reason he had to do this, the reason he was pushed into duty so quickly in his rookie year was because Vernon Hargreaves had suffered an injury very early on in the season that resulted in him missing the entire year and thus pushed Carlton Davis to be a starting cornerback opposite very long-time veteran at the time, Brent Grimes. And overall, Carlton Davis's rookie season, I felt, was a pretty decent one. He started 12 games, finished the year with 40 combined tackles, had 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery, 0 interceptions, but 4 pass deflections. So overall, not a bad year, and much like what I talked about during his time in Auburn, at least for his first year at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the interceptions were not there at all. However, he still managed to get a few pass breakups, get his feet wet in terms of what it's like to be an NFL cornerback, and I still feel one of the most important things that was showcased during Carlton Davis's rookie year was that he was still playing with that physicality. He had the size, he had the length, he had the overall physicality of what you want to see in a starting cornerback. Moving on to year 2 with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this past season, actually, and Brent Grimes is gone. His vibe was ruined and he is out of Tampa Bay. In fact, he's probably retired at this point, but Brent Grimes was gone. A new regime was in. Gone was Dirk Cutter, Mike Smith, Mark Duffner, and the rest of the old Tampa Bay Buccaneers coaching staff, and in came a new coaching staff involving some phenomenal coaches, including Bruce Arians and Todd Bowles. Now, the new defensive motto that was brought in by Todd Bowles and Bruce Arians as well is that they wanted a physical defense. They wanted their defense to play with physicality, especially their cornerbacks. Bruce Arians and Todd Bowles expected physicality from their secondary this past season, and oh man, that's certainly in Carlton Davis's wheelhouse. Now, Carlton Davis ended up playing the 2nd most defensive snaps on the entire Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense this past season, behind only Lavonte David. That's pretty darn impressive in my opinion. Carlton Davis was the 2nd most active player on the entire Buccaneers defense, and he didn't even play the whole year. So if you consider the fact that he would have played the whole year, he definitely would have been up there even more. He wouldn't have passed Lavonte David, obviously, but his numbers still would have probably been even more impressive than I feel they already were. The reason Carlton Davis ended up playing the second most defensive snaps on the entire team this past season was because, again, it was something involving Vernon Hargreaves. No, Vernon Hargreaves was not injured. He was flat out released this past season. Everybody remembers when that release happened. Bruce Arians had been very critical of Vernon Hargreaves multiple times during the 2019 training camp preseason and regular season, said his head wasn't in it, said the cornerbacks weren't playing with necessarily enough physicality, which, I mean, hey, Carlton Davis was playing pretty darn physical throughout the 2019 season, so who specifically was that a shot at? You guys can probably figure that out, and you can probably let me know down in the comment section below. But the point I'm trying to make is that with the release of Vernon Hargreaves, that pretty much made Carlton Davis the undisputed #1 cornerback on the roster. There was officially no more debate at that point. With Brent Grimes being gone from the previous season, you could have made a legitimate argument that Vernon Hargreaves, yeah, former first-round draft pick, he could have been a starting cornerback, be that #1 guy for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but after he was gone, nope, it's Carlton Davis all the way. So let's talk about those year 2 stats. Now, I do want to say, like I said a second ago, Carlton Davis did not start the entire year. A lot of this was because of him getting dinged up a little bit with injuries. Now, these are problems that he has had both in college and in the NFL. No major injuries, but, you know, a ding here, a ding there that puts him out for a game or two throughout the year. It's unfortunate, but it's not something that I'm necessarily worried about. So, like I said, he started 14 games. He finished the year with 60 combined tackles, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery. He got his first interception in his entire NFL career during the 2019 season, and also, yeah, by the way, he finished the year with 19 pass deflections. I also want to say shout out to Jamel Dean, who finished the year with 17 pass deflections, but talking about Carlton Davis's 19 pass deflections. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means that he's playing with a lot of physicality. He's able to swat the ball away from wide receivers. And just overall, it's a really good sign that you are playing a very good role at your cornerback position. Now, 19 pass deflections. You're going to ask, is that a lot? Yeah, that's the second most in the entire NFL for the 2019 season. The only player who had more pass deflections than Carlton Davis was Stephon Gilmore, who had 20. And oh yeah, by the way, 1 defensive player of the year for the entire NFL. I think it just goes to show how good of a cornerback Carlton Davis was for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last season when his numbers are comparable to the defensive player of the year. That cannot be understated enough, okay? I can't stress that enough, that Carlton Davis was only 1 pass deflection away from tying the defensive player of the year. That's phenomenal in my opinion, and I really feel that Bruce Arians and Todd Bowles' motto of "we want a physical defense" speaks volumes to Carlton Davis and how good he was not just this past season, but how good he's going to be for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the 2020 season as well. It's where he thrives. His entire career, Carlton Davis has been a physical cornerback. He was physical in high school, he was physical in college, and he's been physical in the NFL. He has the size, 6'1", 205 pounds. Coming out of college, going into the NFL draft, those were his most impressive traits, to the point where he was being compared to a 3-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All-Pro Nnamdi Asomugha, who had a very long and successful NFL career. The reason for that is because Carlton Davis, he is physical as hell. And I feel like it's a match made in heaven. Much like the comparison I made to Shaq Barrett last year, I feel that Carlton Davis is the perfect cornerback for a Todd Bowles defense. If you want physical in your cornerback room, you ain't gonna get much more physical than Carlton Davis, and that is a fact. And yes, does it draw some penalties from time to time? Of course it does. That's what physical play in today's NFL is going to get you sometimes. You're gonna get a holding flag here. You maybe are going to get a pass interference call here or there as well. Bruce Arians certainly doesn't agree with those flags, by the way. I just want to point that out. If you have ever seen Bruce Arians give a press conference or Todd Bowles give a press conference talking about the secondary group, they always mention Carlton Davis as being a phenomenal cornerback for this team because, yeah, he fits the bill perfectly of what this team needs in terms of a physical cornerback. So how do I think Carlton Davis is going to do in this upcoming season for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Well, if you guys are reading the title of this video, I obviously think he's going to be a star. I think he is going to be a lockdown cornerback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in this upcoming season. He's my hashtag #1 corner for a reason. I have so much faith in Carlton Davis. I love his journey. I love the type of player he is, and I love the perfect fit he has with Todd Bowles' defense, as well as just Bruce Arians and their philosophy and mentality as a coaching staff. I feel like it's absolutely perfect. So guys, I'm putting my stamp of this player is going to be a star firstly onto Carlton Davis for this upcoming 2020 season. I thought he was going to do some very awesome things in 2019, and this year I just want to go ahead and make a video to put my official stamp on it. I think Carlton Davis is going to be a lockdown cornerback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2020, and I feel like he's going to be an absolute star, and not just the best cornerback on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers roster, but I think he's going to be one of the better cornerbacks, if not one of the top cornerbacks in the entire NFL next season. That's just how I feel. But guys, let me know what you think about this video down in the comment section below. What do you think about Carlton Davis, and what do you think about his expectations, or what are your expectations rather, for Carlton Davis for this upcoming 2020 season? I really want to know. But guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you all enjoyed. I will see you in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, and as always guys, goodbye for now, and go Bucs.